Millions of Americans marched at No Kings rallies all across this nation this weekend. Organizers now say about 7 million people showed up. That's about 2 million more than the No Kings events back in June. These protests against authoritarianism reached about 2,600 communities from coast to coast and around the world, even in deep red states. Check out this crowd in Arco, Idaho, a town with less than 900 residents. Protesters lined Main Street in a state Trump won by 36 points. In Texas, thousands marched. And no, the National Guard was not needed in Austin, despite fear-mongering from the state's governor. Instead, people danced and wore costumes. This headline from the Associated Press sums it up. No Kings protests against Trump bring a street party vibe to cities nationwide. Speaker Mike Johnson doesn't see what you can see with your own eyes. Today, House Republicans cherry-picked 4 protest signs to claim the entire day was meant to incite violence. It is an obvious attempt to delegitimize the growing backlash against the MAGA movement. As for Trump, here's his response to the protests against him.
I think it's a joke. I looked at the people. They're not representative of this country.
I'll be honest and say that I was a lifelong Republican until Donald Trump stole my party. This is a democracy. We are a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, and I'm the people. I love my country too much to shut up.
I'm not a king. I work my ass off to make our country great.
I'm 90 years old, and I've never seen my country in this condition. I am not happy. I can't believe authoritarianism.
The demonstrations were very small, very ineffective, and the people were whacked out.
I want to live in a world where, kindness is standard.
Joining us now, Democratic Congressman Jamie Raskin of Maryland. He is the ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee.
Welcome, Congressman Raskin. I love the way Alicia led us into this conversation tonight, particularly the note about the street party vibe, as the headlines reported. But here's the truth. Don't let that street party vibe fool you. The undertones of this were very serious, and I think they spoke in many respects to how the American people have moved into this movement. When you consider, sir, just a few months ago, the first rally, 5 million people across the country. This time, 7+ million Americans. And I love the comment at the end, I love my party too much to shut up. That from a fellow Republican. I agree with that. I love my party too much to shut up, which is why I keep running my mouth about what the party's doing. How do you take away, what do you take away, rather, from this weekend and how the American people are responding in this moment to this president?
Well, it was a beautiful protest around the country. It was witty. It was exuberant. It was humorous. I think it was continuous with the events that took place around Jimmy Kimmel, because people had the sense, hey, that is a serious breakneck moment. I mean, are we going to allow the president of the United States to cancel our comedians and censor TV? And when the public had an outcry against that and Jimmy Kimmel was restored, it's like the country was safe for comedy again. And that's important in a democratic society. We've got to be able to make fun of our leaders. They certainly made fun of Barack Obama and Joe Biden all the time. And we are not going to allow a new law to come down saying you can't make fun of Donald Trump, who is an eminently make fun of character. So I think it was an important First Amendment statement. But the real thing that moved me, being both in Maryland and I went up to Pennsylvania and to New Jersey on No King's Day, was that the prior events were also spectacular and extraordinary, but they felt like events. And this really felt like the outpouring of a movement across the country. Like, we're not going back. And this is a movement that is going to have a serious political impact next year.
Congressman, I think that is the rub, as Michael Steele would say, because I think for a lot of folks, this weekend could feel like a flashpoint. There's been a lot of conversation. I've been in a lot of different group chats and convos with strategists, people that have just been really engaged. A lot of the Black women political leaders who notably were not the organizers of what we saw on No King's Day. And I do think that that's a point. And what I've heard from a number of these people is that engagement is important. They liked to see the folks out there in the streets making their voice heard at these rallies, and that this is one type of way to organize. But the true measure of the success of this isn't just that all these people came out, 7 million people came out on Saturday, but what the work looks like in between the rallies, in between the marches, and folks are looking for roadmaps on how this power is going to be harnessed. There is, prior to next year, there's elections in just a couple weeks in New Jersey and in Virginia and in New York City, frankly. What are you hearing from some of the organizers, particularly in Maryland, and some of the folks your office has been in touch with on where the work goes from here?
Well, and that is the trick, I think, to channel all of this extraordinary, vibrant energy into political action in a lot of different ways. And it's not one to the exclusion of the other. I mean, we never would have had the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Voting Rights Act of 1965, without the March on Washington in 1963. And then those legislative achievements created the space for more protest and more engagement. So it's a dynamic relationship. And I know when the year started, there was so much frustration with the Democratic leadership, and people were saying, where's the leadership? Where's the leadership? Well, not all leadership takes place in Washington or in the legislative parliamentary context. That was leadership that we saw with Indivisible and at these amazing rallies and marches all across the country. They're pulling out people like the young woman who you just interviewed before, who are Republicans, who are independents, people who've never been engaged or involved before. Those people get involved. They get their families involved. They get their neighbors involved, their friends involved. And we've got to take the 7 million rally goers from this weekend and turn them into political organizers for just a landslide popular victory for democracy in the 2026 elections.
Congressman, I think you and I saw the same thing, which is a lot of people who love America. And that is not apparently what Speaker Mike Johnson saw. And given an opportunity to correct the record, he declined. Take a listen to him with Jonathan Karl.
I remember not that long ago what you said after the murder of Charlie Kirk, when you said that we should view fellow Americans not as our enemies, but as our fellow countrymen.
Yeah, I've never called anybody an enemy, but we call out...
Hate America rally or, Antifa pro-Hamas, those are enemies.
Well, there were a lot of hateful messages yesterday. I mean, we have video and photos of pretty violent rhetoric, calling out the president, saying fascists must die and all the rest. I mean, I don't think that's loving speech. I don't think that's friendly speech. And I don't think it's pro-American to say those kinds of things. So it's not about the people. It's about the message. It's about the ideology.
When Republicans are comparing rally and protest goers to terrorists or trying to insinuate that they are proximate to terrorist groups, what are they laying the predicate for, Congressman?
Well, obviously, they're laying the predicate for greater polarization and division and, potentially random violence if people, take that in an extreme way. But what struck me when I saw these comments is how defensive they really are. First of all, they understood this was going to be a massive outpouring of positive patriotic emotion across the country. But secondly, they're covering up. And what are they covering up for? Well, I got to speak in Philadelphia, and what I said was I heard Speaker Mike Johnson refer to a Hate America rally, but that one already happened on January 6th, 2021, where thousands and thousands of people were incited by Donald Trump to storm the U.S. Capitol and attacking our police officers. More than 140 of them were wounded and injured as they drove the members of the House and the Senate out of our chambers, and they yelled, hang Mike Pence. So what they're covering up for is that political violence now has become normalized in the right-wing politics that they thrive on. You saw exactly what progressive politics is about, pro-democracy politics is about. 7 million people go out, and it is peaceful, it is loving, it is nonviolent, and January 6th remains the hallmark of the MAGA movement.